It's Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. We're here with Season 7. So glad you're joining us. I'm your host, Cecilia Supp, CAEACNP, and I'm so glad you're here for this exciting year of so many great topics, so don't forget to subscribe. This episode is supported by USAE News, the weekly community newspaper of Association CVBs and Hotels. Learn more about USAE News at usaenews.com. USAE News brings us another first-time guest. It's Don Welsh from Destinations International. He's here to tell us what's going on with radical collaboration in destination management. It's Monday, May 19th, 2025. Time for episode 286. Hey everybody, it's Monday, May 19th. That means it's time for another episode of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Cecilia Supp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips, and thanks again for being here with us. We have a whole slate of first-time guests this year, and I am really excited to introduce another first-time guest this week. But before I do that, let's build some suspense. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our global audience, wherever you may be. And if you have not yet subscribed or followed us, please take a moment and do that, because we have so many more first-time guests this year. You don't want to miss any of these great topics. This week, we are talking about radical collaboration in the destination management industry. And who better to talk about that than Don Welsh? Don, welcome to the show. You are here as part of our USAE News supported episode, and they have been giving us a whole lineup of fantastic guests, and you are the next. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and say hello to our audience?
Thank you, Cecilia. Great to be with you. And yes, my name is Don Welsh, and I have the good fortune to be the president and CEO of Destinations International. And we are a Washington, D.C. based trade association, and our mission is to support destination organizations not only in the U.S., but throughout North America and around the world. And the organization is over 100 years old. And I'm proud to say that the work and the mission of the organization is now representing 34 countries.
34 countries. Wow. And I didn't realize it was over 100 years old, because Destinations International is not the original name, if I recall.
You're correct. It's gone through multiple iterations of the name. And a few years ago, both with the board of directors and our team, we felt as though that with our efforts to really strategically grow globally, that we needed to add something a little bit more definitive to the name. But ironically, it started, Cecilia, with tracking meetings that moved from various Midwest destinations back in the early days, and so the origin was really to track meetings and events, and it of course is built upon that.
Well, and now you represent the entire profession and industry, right?
We're very fortunate. The whole mission of the organization is we have one audience, and that are the destinations, and our job is to provide them with the tools and resources that they need to be successful in clearly ever-changing times, as we all know.
Yes, and that's a great lead in to talking about the state of the world right now in travel. When you and I were preparing for this episode, you mentioned a couple of things about the political climate, some of the policy decisions that are being made, and they are impacting travel. And you had mentioned a really specific example. If something goes wrong at one airport, there's a whole chain of events. So what is your perspective on that? Not necessarily an official policy statement from Destinations International, but what's your take on that?
It's funny, before I answer that question specifically, I reminded myself in preparation for our call today that our industry is a bit cyclical. And if you go back prior to the pandemic, we had about a decade worth of just incredible growth, significant hotel growth, airline growth, whatever it was, whatever metric you could look at. It was great. And then, of course, when the pandemic came, we began to see a little slowdown before then. And then, of course, around the world, tourism stopped, meetings stopped, events stopped for a period of time. And then we got back in this highly collaborative, spirited collaboration between government and between destinations and the industry. And quickly, probably within a couple of years, many destinations were back to pre-pandemic levels. Where we have been in the US specifically have trying to get back to the pre-pandemic levels. We're on the global visitors, people coming in outside of North America. We've always had a great inbound between Canada, the US, and vice versa, and Mexico to the US. But where a lot of the effort of the great work of Brand USA has been done has been around the world. And we were just getting back in 2025 levels that were almost equal to where we were prior to the pandemic. And unfortunately, I think I'll say right up front, President Trump understands the value of tourism. Again, successful hotel operator around the world. He gets what we do. He gets the value of when you visit a destination, whether you're coming from 50 miles or 5,000 miles, what it means to that community. I think right now, clearly, the tariffs were one thing that has caused some people to take a pause, both on their financial situation, because it's not inexpensive to make a trip from a great distance. We understand that. So you've got the local economies taking place in those countries. You also have the feeling that, you know what, there have been tariffs been imposed that somehow may be interpreted by the citizens in those cities or countries as being unfair. So you have that dynamic taking place. And then you have, as we said, on occasion, there could be a situation at a gateway airport in the United States where maybe somebody was not treated with a level of respect that they expected from Customs and Borders. And of course, that one incident becomes snowballing. So we find ourselves now with a belief that we're going to start seeing some of the bookings coming from the long haul, particularly Europe, which is a key inbound market to the US as well as South America. But time will tell. But I will tell you, I'm really proud of our destination organizations of being proactive and let everybody know that, you know what, we want their business, we're open for their business, and really getting back into marketing in those parts of the world.
And, yeah, and that opens so many other avenues of conversation. But I do want to back up a little bit. You mentioned Brand USA. And for those of us like myself who aren't super familiar with that, could you explain what you mean when you say Brand USA? Is that a program that you run, or is that a group that exists?
Brand USA has been in place for over a decade now, and it is a private-public partnership between the federal government, and it is funded to the tune of about $100 million a year in terms of public money that is really captured from a portion of the visa application in various countries, and then they have a supplemental co-op between the private sector, the major hotel companies, airlines, destination organizations. So together we have about a $200 million annual budget to do the work on behalf of the United States of America to promote the inbound to the United States. And they've had great success over the years. Right now it's being led by Fred Dixon, who for many years was a successful CEO in Visit New York and Company. So Fred knows the global market. He's been in that role since the beginning of the year, so certainly he's had a few challenges, but the infrastructure of Brand USA is in place. I think we're encouraged with the great work that is being done by U.S. Travel, Jeff Freeman and his team, to understand and help elevate the importance and awareness of what Brand USA does to the new administration. And I think right now that there's beginning to be an understanding with the World Cup coming up in 2026 in 11 U.S. cities. That international gateway markets are going to be critical for these people to follow their respective teams. So I know that's a catalyst. I know right now celebrating America's 250 is going to be very important, as well as Route 66, which are very important to the global audience. So we're hopeful that somehow the temperature goes down in certain parts of the world, so Brand USA can re-engage in those markets around the world and turn back on the faucet of that very vitally important high economic driving audience of the global visitor.
Well, and I thank you for explaining that, because for those of us who are not necessarily in this side of what we do in association management, that's great to understand that and know that. And also for the global audience to understand that we are working hard on that, on keeping those relationships going. I do think that, my opinion, the Trump administration is doing a lot of things to bring people to the table and start conversations. And as we know, President Donald Trump does not mind stirring the pot a little bit with some of his comments. But he is going around the world and talking with people and trying to bring people together for conversations and really getting involved globally. So I think that's a good sign in support of what you were saying. I think that's going to turn around for all of us. And that brings us to the sticky wicket, as the British say, of Canada. Now, they're obviously our neighbor to the north, and we have had a good relationship with them generally. But now Canada's a little annoyed with us because of some comments about them possibly becoming the 51st state. Uh, I think those comments were made somewhat in jest, but they are a good trading partner for us too. But I know a lot of Canadians seem to be hesitant to cross the border. Do you have any insight on that situation?
We have a little bit because, first of all, I've got to give credit where credit's due. The word radical collaboration is actually coined by our incoming board chair, Leslie Bruce, who's CEO in Banff, Canada. So we're fortunate. We have 70 destination members in Canada, and we're very proud of the fact. Wasn't too long ago, we had about 10. So we've got a great, deep relationship with our Canadian partners. And I think everybody always understands if the discussion is on financials, that's a different discussion. But not that, unfortunately, has not been the case up until now. I do believe now with a new leader in Canada, and there seemed to be a really positive first meeting at the White House a couple of weeks ago between that person and President Trump. Hopefully, that will move in the right direction. But I believe the continued discussion and the rhetoric around becoming the 51st state has been justifiably offensive to the Canadians, as I think if we put ourselves in their shoes. So I know our destination members who see a lot of the business from Canada, particularly the border states and the state of Florida where I live. It is vital somehow the Canadians understand, and it will not happen overnight. You won't turn the switch back on, but I think they need to understand the respect and love and appreciation that the United States has towards them and their business. And I would say probably if you talk to a majority of Americans, as soon as we can understand and respect their sovereignty as a country and respect that for what they continue to do in terms of trading partners and just being our great neighbor to the north. But yeah, that is one entity, that's one challenge right now that's going to take a little bit longer probably to solve than some of the other destinations around the world.
Yeah, and I agree with that because rebuilding trust in a relationship is difficult no matter what kind of relationship it is. And I think that the Canadians have a real sense of national pride and identity. And so making that kind of one-off, possibly in just maybe partly serious comment would be totally offensive. But of course, I've got kind of a smart mouth. I think if I were the Canadian Prime Minister, I would have said, well, maybe you could become our next province
You
instead.
never know. You never know. I think there is a positive first step with the new Prime Minister coming in to have the conversation. And let's just hope that continues. But let's hope the rhetoric dies down that has been talking about the 51st state, and we can get back to maybe some normalcy of relations.
I was very pleased when I saw that the new prime minister had actually come to Washington for the meeting. I felt that was really positive, and I felt that showed, excuse me, I felt that showed that, okay, it's starting to defrost a little bit, if not warm up. So
I agree.
Which is great. Now let's talk a little bit more about this concept of radical collaboration, which says coming out of Banff, which I hope I said correctly, Canada. So can you explain that a little bit more? I mean, it sounds similar to the Burning Man concept of radical inclusion, which I love. So how do you implement radical collaboration?
I think that radical collaboration is anything we can do right now to help our destination members sort of navigate through these fluid and challenging times. That to me is what it's all about. We also have about 100 great partners that have products, services, thought leadership in areas where we don't have. So they complement us, we complement them. So as an example, we pulled together a meeting recently, a webinar. We had about 300 CEOs on just talking about what was taking place in terms of some of the things we've just spoken about. And when you get 300 CEOs on a call, US CEOs, there seems to be this just open channel of discussion. And I think one of the things we found out over the years, Cecilia, is when we can come together, whether it's at a CEO summit or our annual convention coming up in Chicago, challenges and issues that somehow you think you're the only one ever to go through them, you realize that maybe there's a destination or a handful of destinations that can help you navigate through it and shorten the learning curve. So I think we're in that mode right now, trying to figure out, how are we going to deal with fewer visitors coming into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico, if that continues to be the case. How we're going to mitigate some of the fallout from Europe inbound or other parts of the world. But more importantly, how we're going to begin communicating that we are definitely open for business. We want your business. And as a matter of fact, we have Jeff Freeman coming up. Jeff is doing a brilliant job at U.S. Travel right now. And I think the CEOs and the execs of those destinations around the country want to hear from Jeff as to how, he's working with the new administration and what's taken place.
And
It is just constantly trying to be in touch with people, to let them know that they're not alone, no matter how big the challenge may be or how small.
That is such a great point because we all think we're the only one with a problem, we're the only one struggling. But then you start talking to other people, and all of a sudden you find out, oh, well, they have the same issue. They either have a solution or maybe we can find one together. So I love that explanation of radical collaboration. And there, you've already mentioned you have your big annual conference coming up in July in Chicago, but also May 20th is when IMEX starts in Frankfurt, Germany. So for those of, I mean, I am a person, I know about IMEX. I've never been because again, I don't work in that area, but can you tell us a little bit about IMEX? You've probably been a lot. So
I
what
have
is it
I have
like?
I have been a lot, and they are a great partner of Destinations International. As I was saying earlier, they continue to grow the show both in Frankfurt, which is their spring show, and then they also then have the show in the fall in Las Vegas. And really, it's a hosted buyer program, and there are destinations from around the world that are in that show environment. They have multiple meetings per hour with buyers coming in, and it's got a level of excitement from the time the show opens till it closes. And as I was saying to you, we're all there. So all the association organizations are there. So not only are we with our members and our partners during IMEX, both in Frankfurt and Las Vegas, we also have our own meetings, and we have a lot of business gets done. And I really got to give Ray and Karina Bloom, the founders of IMEX, a lot of credit because they are highly collaborative with the industry associations as well to maximize our time there as well. So yeah, there'll be a packed crowd in Frankfurt, and we'll come back exhausted next week.
And just in time to get ready for your July conference in Chicago, which also is the hometown of the new Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. So that's some exciting news. I was talking to a friend the other day who lives in Chicago, and she said, oh, we have all kinds of stuff about the new Pope now because he's from Chicago. But I'm sure that's not going to be the only thing going on in Chicago. So can you tell us a little bit about your annual conference that's coming up?
I will, but I need to also put a shameless plug in for my newest granddaughter who was born last week in Chicago. And I'm sure she's going to be following the Cubs and the Bears. But no, thrilled that we welcomed our newest grandchild here as well. We're thrilled about that. We have a goal of about 2,000 people coming in here. We're well near that goal, and I would encourage anybody who can attend to look up destinationsinternational.org. And this gets back to Cecilia, what we talked about. There are multiple keynote speakers, thought leaders on various subjects, but really where the work gets done is when we get into all the breakouts and the concurrent sessions on really relevant and timely topics. And then in addition to that, people are going to enjoy Chicago. Having lived and worked here, we all wait for the summer months in Chicago. So we're going to be following right after July 4th and go into that week. And it is going to be an incredible opportunity for gathering. And as we know, not only does business get done during the convention, breakouts and coffee breaks and lunches, but really gets done during the social time. And I know our partners and us are going to look forward to welcoming global visitors. I'm really happy to see we still have a good number of people coming in outside of North America, which is a great sign that people are coming in and want to be part of this global community. And there's no better city than Chicago in the summer. We'll be at McCormick Place, and just a lot of opportunity for us to discuss some of these topics in a radical collaboration environment.
Yeah, and again, just love that concept of radical collaboration. So when you're looking ahead, let's say we're looking ahead. So the administration, the current one, is not that old at this point. It just hit the 100-day mark recently. And I think things are starting to calm down a little bit after the pot getting stirred and a lot of upset. The world's getting smaller in a lot of ways. We can talk to people using technology, people all over the world, all different times of the day. We can travel fairly easily. I know right now, some people feel if you're going internationally, it's taking a little bit longer. But the world is smaller in that way. We're able to travel more easily. We're able to go long distances very quickly. I mean, when you think about the fact you can fly from the Washington, D.C. area all the way to Australia in just about 14, 15 hours, that's amazing because, you know, at one point it took months, 6 to 8 months to get there on a ship. So we really live in a fantastic world with a lot of opportunity. So as you're looking ahead, maybe let's look at 26, 27. What do you see that might be shifting in that positive way toward more global interaction, more global travel, more people coming together for radical collaboration?
Well, I think right now, from our viewpoint, with having uh, soon to be 800 destinations in 34 soon to be growing number of countries, we have now a pretty good idea of the opportunities for people to travel. You remember, it used to be a very focused effort for DI about only business into the US and Canada and Mexico. Now we have a global perspective. And you said it, I think aviation is making it so much easier to either be on a nonstop or a one-stop flight to go really anywhere in the world. And we're very proud of the work that continues to be done in our industry, but there's probably not a part of the world that has got more commitment to the tourism industry than Saudi Arabia. And we've had the privilege now for 3 years of working with Saudi Tourism Authority, and they have about $1.3 trillion of tourism development underway. Now, I said trillion. And
Brilliant.
yeah, it is phenomenal when you see it. They have got places like Alula, it's been open for a couple of years. It was technically closed to the public for 1,000+ years, and now it's open, and it is just the most incredible experience. When you're there, you almost have a difficult time comprehending it. And then you'll see multiple projects, the Red Sea project, and these projects are billions of dollars. And I compliment the Saudi leadership, understanding they're augmenting their dependency or their focus on energy and oil, and they're now seeing really from a global citizenship standpoint. I'm really ecstatic in the fact they're looking at tourism. And again, the only way perception changes of places such as Saudi Arabia is when you go there. And you'll sit there and say, wow, whatever I thought of Saudi Arabia, my reality is totally different. And that gets back to what I was saying. You can only do that with a live visit. And what we encourage is the fact that I think travel's in the DNA of people. We may have a slight disruption right now. People may say in 2025, well, I was thinking about going to the US or Canada, Mexico, but right now I may stay within my continent. I may choose to focus on coming to the States in 26. But no, I think travel is essential. It's essential. It's not something we choose to do. We may choose where to go, but I don't think the human spirit will stop people from going to places. And the airlines are making it much easier. The hotel companies are making it easier, and the destinations are doing a great job. And I've never seen it more fierce, Cecilia, to win a piece of business, whether it's a meeting or event, or whether it's to encourage a leisure visit to come to a destination and experience it. And I know the destinations do great work to earn that business and retain that business.
Well, and I see I used to travel internationally more when I was younger, and now I do more domestic travel. And what I'm seeing is, like hotels, being more open to bringing pets. They have more pet friendly policies. try to offer services like pet sitting or babysitting or things like that. So I have really seen over, especially the last 10, 15 years, more flexibility from the hotels and the other places that you might need services from locally. So I'm really glad to see that people are being responsive to the human experience. Like you said, moving around is in our DNA. We are people. We started out as nomadic people, thousands of years ago. And what's over there? What's that? Oh, what's that guy doing? I mean, people watching is the oldest hobby on the planet. I mean, we're all like watching each other. Oh, what's that guy doing now? Or what's she up to? So it is really fun to travel too. And you have probably traveled more than most people. You've probably been pretty much all over the world. So, do you have a personal favorite destination that you like to go to for your relaxed time, for your vacation?
I'd say other than yeah, I have been. I've had the good fortune in the hotel industry, even on the airline side, and certainly what I do now is, I probably travel 150 to 200 days a year. I get the privilege to do that, and I get a chance to go to a lot of places around the world. I would say right now for us personally, my wife and I, there's probably two favorites. We had a chance to live and work in Hawaii, and I would say right now that I will never get tired of spending time, particularly on the Big Island of Hawaii, where we did work. And so Hawaii is an all-time favorite. And I would tell you right now that I love Italy and what the country stands for. My grandmother came from Italy, and a lot of that side of my family. And to be honest with you, the other half came from Ireland. So I have an affinity for Italy, Ireland, and Hawaii, but everywhere in between. And I get a chance, as an example, to go to Riyadh or Alula in Saudi Arabia was just something I never thought I'd see, as well as go to Qatar or Doha. And there's some really exciting places around the world. I never get tired of being in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne, and places like that. So yeah, you said it. We're making it very easy for people to travel. And I did want to say the hotels are doing a great job of no longer building a one size hotel fits all. And you see the lifestyle brands now that they continue to create that really appeal to the travelers' demands and things they find important to them when they travel. And I've been blown away by that. You're seeing that now in the cruise ships. You're seeing that on the airlines. So really all the different critical elements to either get you there or where you're staying, they've sort of really modified what they do to meet the increasing demands of people.
Well, and it's another thing that I've seen and personally experienced last year in 2024, accessibility issues for people who maybe have a mobility issue, which I had last year. And being able to go places in a wheelchair was good. There's still a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done on that side, simply because, oh, sure, it might be a walk-in shower, but if the person in the wheelchair can't reach the shampoo, that's kind of an issue. But we're seeing that more and more, though, where you can ask for the assistance, you can ask for the room with the walk-in shower or the wheel-in shower, depending on how you're going to do it. But I really have seen that a lot, because so often years ago, I'm going to say late 20th century was probably the last time, it was very much that one size fit all that you mentioned, like, well, here's the room you can get and that's it. No dogs, and don't bring your kids, or bring your kids, it's your problem. Or no, we're not going to give you bottled water. If you want coffee, go out. But now it's been great, because, there's ironing boards and irons in every room. There's bottled water. You can ask for assistance. And so I think that's us as human beings trying to be more understanding of each other's needs and how we actually live versus how we think we live or how we think we should live. And I think that's really a great thing. And like you said, travel, I do love to travel and meet different people and see different places. And you're right, that's the only way to see something different. Now, I've never been to the Middle East. I'll be upfront, as a Western woman, I'm hesitant to go to the Middle East because they have a very different culture. It's a very different way of life. It's a very different way of looking at the role of women. So we were talking about President Trump. He recently had a visit to Qatar, and there were no women at the welcoming ceremony, except one woman that I believe came with him. And so that was a little startling. So did you notice, like, is it comfortable? Like, if I just wanted to go as a tourist, is it comfortable to go to Saudi Arabia?
Highly comfortable. But if I could, just to go back to your point on accessibility, because it's
Yes.
something that it really has been happening in the last 2 or 3 years. If you look at the aging population, that right now people don't want to stop traveling. But as you said, what is being done consistently across the world to make sure that number one, I can get a wheelchair into a hotel, I can navigate, I can, if I'm visually impaired, whatever it may be. And I'm really proud of the work we've done over the last few years. We have an organization within our group called Social Impact, headed up by an incredible leader, Sophia Heider-Hawk. We began working with a guy named Jake Steinman on a project on accessibility. We've created a playbook now that literally is available for the destinations, and I'm happy that many destinations have really engaged this, where they now have a social inclusion, social impact person on their team within the destination. And of course, they work with the team. There's one group in particular called Wheel the World. And if you want to see some cutting edge work being done, it is a group of leaders that have accessibility issues. They're out of California, they're out of San Francisco, and they're now going into destinations, and they will accredit a city, not just a hotel, but they will look at every area of accessibility. And it was pretty
Wow.
special. We had a chance to be in Dublin this past year for a CEO summit. They have now built a facility with an airplane fuselage, a bus, things, crossing streets for people with handicaps. So you can do it in a studio environment, but to be ready for a real time environment. And I think, you touched on accessibility. I want you to know the work is being done by destinations, and I'm proud of that. Getting back to your question about the Middle East, I've been there 4 or 5 times in the last couple of years, and I really can't give an opinion on what took place in Doha, but I will tell you in the case of Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince is by directive. Women have a voice. Women are sitting in companies. Our partners at Saudi Tourism Authority, I would say right now, 50% of that organization are women in leadership positions.
Great.
So I think they have realized that in order for them to attract visitors and attract talent to work there, that was a big issue for them to take head on, and they've done so. Before, women couldn't drive. Well, guess what? Women are driving there now. Women couldn't. So, and again, some of these things we know are beyond archaic, but you're right. You touch on the subject that perception's reality. When you see something on TV, that penetrates your thought process about, hey, maybe I'm just going to wait and go. I will tell you, in the case of Saudi Arabia right now, as well as Dubai and others, they are very welcoming. And whatever the optics may have been, I didn't see the specifics on but I will tell you, they've acknowledged that in the Middle East as an issue to address. It's not going to probably fix itself overnight, but there's a conscious effort for improvement.
Yes. Well, and the women, first of all, thank you for sharing that about the accessibility. Jake Simon actually has been on the podcast talking about what they do at
Good.
Travelability, and we had a great time talking with him as well. And also talking about the different cities taking an approach to make sure everything is more accessible and easy for people to get around. I know I really appreciated having an accessibility van when I was at the ASA annual conference in 2024. I could just call them up and say, okay, I'm ready to go back to the hotel or back to the meeting or wherever I was going. And those things are great. Also, other cities are looking at things like, are there enough cutouts in the sidewalks? Is this new restaurant accessible? Things like that. So glad you brought us back to that and reemphasized it, because it's important, because, if we're lucky, we're all getting older and we all may need like a little help getting around in the future. But to your point about the Middle East, I'm glad you said that about Saudi Arabia, because I do know that the kingdom is working to change and they're working to modernize. But because they are an ancient kingdom, it is taking them a little longer than some people might like. I remember when they said, okay, we're going to let women start driving. And they had to phase that in over like a 5 year period because they had to let the older people absorb the idea and then accept it. Women driving, what? And then I remember when I went to college in the Midwest, there were a lot of people that were going to school there from the Middle East, and all the students from Kuwait were very proud of the fact that they let women drive in Kuwait. And they would point out, well, our women have a lot of freedom. They can drive and they can go out by themselves. And so there's different levels of that modernization in the Middle East. And so being able to get these updates is really important. Dubai, I know now, again, never been to the Middle East. I've heard so much about Dubai as a destination though. And I'm wondering, like, are they setting the standard for the rest of the Middle East to look to about here's how we could become a destination and a tourist spot?
I think they probably were the first major destination in the Middle East to sort of open the doors to the world. I think Emirates has done a brilliant job of helping them as the national airline really get people there in a unique, wonderful way of flying, right?
Mhm.
And when you get there, it literally, getting back to what I said before, from the most luxurious accommodations you can even begin thinking about, they have all the way down to less than a 7-star hotel they offer. And I just found it fascinating. I found it a lot of a global audience there. There was many languages being spoke there as I've ever heard.
Mhm.
And I was sort of taken back by some of the wealth. It cannot be emphasized enough. I've never seen more Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bentleys and others in my life. So I think there's a lot of investment that takes place there and a
Mhm.
lot of business. And I think that has been the catalyst to some extent for other parts of the Middle East to look at and say, wow, we can replicate, but we're going to do it in our own way. We're going to do it unique to Qatar. We're going to do it unique to Bahrain. We're going to do it unique to Saudi Arabia. So, but I do think there is a good, healthy amount of competition, but I do think there's a good, healthy level of collaboration to some degree.
Oh, that's good to hear because I hear so many exciting things about Dubai as a destination. And I've read articles about it where they actually are building islands to like offer more space, I guess, in Dubai.
They
Is
have.
that accurate?
Oh, it is. That's one of the unique elements when you see what the royal family has done. If you probably to take a satellite perspective and see what it looked like 20 years ago versus where it is now, and the creation of literally the islands, and they're not done islands. They are done in a beautiful architectural manner with design. And usually on those, you'll find some of the most incredible 5, 6, 7-star hotels, resorts, restaurants, attractions, and I believe right now you're looking at the next creation of Disney, and it's I see it almost an endless opportunity of development taking place in the Middle East. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. That does sound exciting because I know they've been for about 30 years seriously looking at other ways to be, I guess, relevant in a way. I mean, because they can't always depend on oil. So how else can they participate? Why else would people want to come visit them? And I think it's great to see all of these changes and see how exciting it is. And I've heard about the Dubai Association Conference. I don't know. Have you ever been to that one?
I have not. I have not. I've been to the Arabian Travel Show a couple times, and that is held in Dubai. And it is every country in the Middle East and many other countries around the world are there. And it sort of shows you the activity on the floor, almost similar to what you see IMEX.
Mhm.
It is quite fascinating to see all the new development coming out. And I think the one thing that where you're seeing some elements of, whether it's Dubai or Doha or places like that, they have limited land. When you start looking at the opportunities because of the vast size of Saudi Arabia and the different geographies in Saudi Arabia, they're doing things that I would say are um, very specific. If somebody wants to see a certain part and experience what Saudi Arabia has been historically, they can see that. They can move around and they can be at that place, Alula, as I said, which was one of the most incredible trips I've ever had on. That was literally closed to civilization other than for the Saudis. Even they couldn't go, and is where the sacred burial grounds that took place in
Ooh.
the mountains. And now to be in that environment in some of the most beautiful hotels, but in that part of the desert, it's pretty special. And I do think that ability with that amount of land and water and mountains is giving them some unique opportunities, adding to the 1.3 billion trillion in tourism development.
That is amazing. Well, I am so glad to hear that. That's really exciting, and maybe the audience will start looking to the Middle East for perhaps some destinations in the future for their own conferences.
I think they all, listen, I think every one of the countries we've just talked about, they have a vested interest not only in leisure, but they have a vested interest in meetings and events.
Mhm.
Because I think when they know they get in scientific, medical, whatever it may be, technology events, there is a word of mouth that benefits from affluent people coming in to do business that they're also very targeted on. So their efforts are really across the board, all market segments.
Mhm. Wow, that is amazing. And $1 trillion just in Saudi Arabia. Is
Trillion
that
three,
correct?
I believe the number.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot of zeros out there, folks. That's great.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it
That's
is.
great to hear. Well, so are there any, as we get ready to wrap up this episode, this has been great having you here. And I've heard so much about Destinations International over the years. Are there any other trends that you've seen that maybe we should keep our eye on? Like, is anything happening in Asia or Africa or South America regarding destinations?
Conversation. I think right now it's important for your viewers, if there happen to be associations or have meetings. I think every destination that we have to work with is working very hard to be the very best they can be, whether it's coming in for a meeting, an event, sporting event, or whatever, as well as a leisure customer. No one takes it for granted, and they want people to feel welcome, whether it's for a day or 5 days. So I'm proud of the work the destinations continue to do. They understand it's a highly competitive game right now, so there's no people resting on their laurels. Getting back to your question, though, in addition to what's taking place in the Middle East, there is equal things taking place in other parts of the world. We continue to be astounded by what's taking place on the continent of Africa, in terms of the development of new organizations, destinations there as well. I think they have done a great job in places like Rwanda to balance the opportunity for people to experience that part of Africa, but do it in a respectful manner if they want to see wildlife in place. We love the fact that they're doing it in a thoughtful, um, sensitive from the environment to not burden it with an over number of people. That's one example. I also look at whether other parts of the world that have experienced, quote, overcrowding. And I'm really proud of the work we've had a chance to see Barcelona, which has always been one of the top destinations in terms of what they're doing to mitigate the overcrowding to accommodate the visitors as well as respect the locals. So we get a chance to see that kind of work as well. But I think everybody understands the not only the economic power of what tourism brings to a community or meetings to a community, they understand it adds to the brand value of that destination, clearly jobs. When you start looking at tourism around the world, it's probably 8 to 10% of the GDP in group. And that's a powerful number. Certain places is even higher. So I continue to be the multiple levels, whether it's a government, whether it's at the presidential, federal, state, city, county, whatever it may be. I'm just proud of the fact that for the most part, people understand what it means to their communities and the work behind it.
Oh, well, thank you. That is great. And I do like to ask my guests for a closing thought. I think you've already given us two, but do you have one closing thought, whether it's about radical collaboration or the global community or the future of meetings that you'd like to share with the audience? And then how could they get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about what you do at Destinations International?
Well, first of all, for those of in the audience that hold meetings and events, I can't thank you enough for that. I had the privilege of running Seattle, Indianapolis, and Chicago. And whether it's a meeting of 50 people or 50,000 people, that is the only predictable market segment that a destination can plan for. Because every other business segment, whether it's business leisure, that's all based on the market conditions. So the emphasis and importance of meetings, I want to thank you on behalf of all of our destination members. In addition to what you bring there, the leave behinds are so critical. As an example, here in Chicago, I used to love when the National Restaurant Association came in, or ASCO for clinical oncologists, and the work that was done. So shameless plug for the importance of meetings. I just say right now we are in a definite cycle of tourism, and I have to remind myself, and I'm old enough to do it now, we do have cycles. We understand that there's up times and there's times for a reset. I think we're in a period of a reset right now, but I think, as you said, I don't think it's going to be a long reset. I think that clearly, hopefully, the financial pieces when the tariffs, that begins to come down a little bit from a temperature standpoint. Understanding many cases that these things needed to be done. But I also am encouraged that it will not be a long disruption. And I just want to again say to my friends up north in Canada, we love you, we appreciate you, we love your business, and we love the relationship that the United States and Canada has had for a long, long time. And we're going to get back there.
That is a great closing thought. Thank you. And I agree on Canada. We still love you, Canada. But Don, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you if they wanted to ask you some more questions?
Sure. You can go on our website, which is destinationsinternational.org. And if you want to talk to me specifically, I'm D Welsh, DWELSH at destinationsinternational.org. And I would love to find out how we can be of service to you.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week, Don.
My pleasure. I enjoyed the conversations. See you.
Me too. But we have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So another reminder, if you haven't followed us or subscribed yet, please take a moment and do that so you don't miss any more of these great conversations. We're having a great year where we're learning more and more about what everybody's doing in the association community. So check it out. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our website, roguetulips.com, and then let's have a conversation. If you're looking for education for CAE prep or ethics training, check out our education page. You can find this episode with Don on our podcast page and see all of our other podcast episodes as well, so you can get caught up on these fantastic conversations we've been having this year. And if you want to know what's on my mind this week, check out our blog and see what the heck I'm talking about now. So thanks again for joining us. And on behalf of Don and myself, we'll see you next time. Not yet a subscriber to USAE News? Go to their website, usaenews.com. They have a subscription that fits every budget. That's it for this week. I hope you really loved this episode as much as I did. Thanks for listening. Learn more about how our experience and knowledge at Rogue Tulips can give your organization the strategic edge to reach its goals. Check out our website at roguetulips.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can work together. Thanks.